Hi Slingers, it's me again, and this time I have a little story about an RV. So you may remember me bringing up the RV a few times in the past few videos, and on my podcast, and on my blog, and on social media. Now last week I actually went and picked up the RV from the dealer and drove it to a storage unit, which is a little closer to my home. We really wanted to get it out of the dealer's parking lot where we had 30 days free storage, but we're not exactly thrilled with the dealer. The sooner we can get away from them, the better. And right now, the last little wispy contact we're going to have with them is picking up the license plate for the RV. So I went to pick up the RV, and everything seemed like it was going pretty smoothly. They gave me the keys. I got inside. I turned on the engine, and then some things happened, or I guess more accurately, some things didn't happen. There's a large stereo system in this thing that has basically a little display on it, a monitor, and that monitor connects to the backup camera, but also to two cameras that turn on whenever you turn on your left and right blinker. Now, without that camera, you don't really get to see anything that's going on outside the RV. The mirrors help, and you can actually see traffic on either side of you, but what you really need is to be able to see when you back up, or turn that thing on and use it kind of like a rear view mirror. Without this thing working, it was going to be a real problem for me. So I made a few phone calls and found out that there is a switch on the RV that takes it out of storage mode. No one ever bothered to tell me about this switch or show me this switch. I guess had to figure it out on my own. So once that switch was engaged, the stereo came on, but so did a lot of other systems. So now I can actually turn on the generator. And that was really good news for me because it was like 91 degrees at the time that I got into this thing. And the dash cooling system, the dash air system that goes in this thing, doesn't cool very well. If you checked out any of the videos of the sort of guided tour of this thing, you might see that there's an actual like dividing wall between the front living space on this RV and the rest of the RV. You can just slide these doors together and you got a whole separate space. That's basically going to be my office in the mornings whenever we're living in this thing full time. But where it really came in handy this time was I was able to close those doors, turn on the air conditioner above me as well as the air conditioner in the dash, and cool the whole thing down. Temperature issues aside, things seemed to be going pretty well at that point. I got on the road, I got on the feeder for I-10, and if you don't live in the Houston, Texas area, a feeder is really just the road that runs beside a major highway. I've learned that they don't call it that everywhere. I think they call it like an access road. I'm not even sure. So I get onto I-10, and I'm driving to my home when I realize that one of the directions I would normally take is kind of closed off to me because I don't have my Easy Tag. The Easy Tag is the tollway tag system that allows me to drive and charge all the tolls to my account. I'm not going to be able to exactly pull up and throw some change into a toll booth receptacle or whatever those things are called. I really kind of need that Easy Tag in order to drive on those tollways. I had to take an alternate route. So I got back on the feeder. I was going to take a right on Highway 6. That would have put me going directly to my home, but I got a little creative instead. What I ended up doing was taking a street called Fry Road, and that's a fairly nice looking drive. There are a lot of trees hanging overhead. So the trees didn't really come into play at all. I was worried about them a little because I'm new at this. This is my first time driving this thing anywhere other than the test drive. So I was a little worried that the trees might, scrape the top of the thing, rip the air conditioner off, all kinds of bad, worst case scenarios ran through my head. But ultimately, all that stuff was fine. However, somewhere along the way, I started hearing this thumping noise. And my first thought was, who did I run over? Now, thankfully, I didn't run over anyone, but what I did discover as I looked out my passenger side mirror was that the door was not fully latched, and it was actually swinging open. Now, that's not what was causing the thumping noise. Thing is, when you have a large RV like this, there are these steps, and when the door opens, the steps automatically engage, and so they sort of slide out. And when the door closes, they slide back up. And when they do that, they make a very loud thumping noise. So basically, I was driving down Fry Road, afraid of the trees, and afraid of hitting other cars, and hearing this thumping noise, and basically my door was swinging open and closed, and the steps were engaging and opening and closing the whole time. So I pulled off into a neighborhood, which was my best option at the time, and I latched the door closed. Now I have to figure out a way to get out of this neighborhood, and I'm not comfortable backing up yet, so that's problem number one. Problem number two is there's a lot of traffic coming into this neighborhood, so I can't exactly, well, my first plan, honestly, was I was going to pull into a side street, back out of the side street, and then continue on my way. That didn't happen. What I ended up having to do was just sort of trust that this neighborhood opened up elsewhere so that I could get out again. Luckily, it did exactly that. I was able to actually drive through the neighborhood, get back on Fry Road. At that point, I figured out I needed to actually enter an address into my GPS so that I could get the RV to the actual storage building. I pick up my phone, which is the only thing I have access to at that time. I enter the address and I hit start. Now, over the next several minutes, we'll just say I went on an adventure. Mostly what happened was the GPS had me turn into a residential neighborhood again. But this time it was one of those that has one of these large circular, I don't know, it goes around the park and the swimming pool area. And it had me turn and follow that and then turn into another neighborhood area where I actually had to squeeze through narrow streets. People were actually backing up and getting out of my way, I think in panic. And I actually did run over a curb or two, so I didn't do so hot in this neighborhood, and I am freaking out. So once I'm out of the neighborhood, I'm on a fairly long stretch of road, and I felt much more comfortable, but then GPS has me take another turn, and this time it's on a very narrow 2-lane road. Now there's nothing really wrong with this 2-lane road. I'm pretty sure I'm going to have to drive on a few of these at some point, but at this point it was scaring the crap out of me because there's no shoulder. There are a lot of cars whizzing by on my left. I'm basically slowing down everyone behind me because I'm too scared to go over like 40 miles per hour. The worst possible thing happened. My tires, my passenger side tires, drop off the actual road and onto the very soft shoulder of the road. And when I say shoulder, I'm kind of giving it a lot of credit because it was actually just sort of a sloped, grassy knoll going into the actual ditch that ran alongside this road. So I gently correct the vehicle back onto the road because that's what you do, right? I kept calm and actually gently rode back onto the road. But I wasn't so calm a few minutes later, or a few seconds later actually, because suddenly the RV was starting to sway back and forth, left and right, while I was driving. I slowed down even more, which I'm sure irritated everyone behind me, but at this point I kind of have a, let's say a not so polite attitude towards everyone else on the road. So I managed to survive all that. I didn't flip the RV on its side or anything, which was what was going on in my head. But I did eventually have to pull over again. Once I got to a place where I could do this without blocking traffic, I pulled over, I put my hazards on, and I checked my GPS. Now I did this because I can't figure out why I'm suddenly being driven through all these neighborhoods and everything. It doesn't really make sense. I mean, most of the time you don't get directions to take a neighborhood street to get to main thoroughfares. But as it turned out, there was a reason I was being diverted into those areas. The GPS was actually set to bike route. Now this explained a lot. I was actually taking my RV on bike routes throughout various neighborhoods. That kind of makes sense. Now that I had the whole GPS thing corrected, it was time for me to get back on the road. I did one more narrow 2-lane road, and I kind of think of it as my redemption road, because on this one I actually did manage to keep things very straight and narrow. I didn't drive off into the ditch or anything. I didn't hit any cars that were oncoming, and I wasn't quite as afraid of the whole thing, although I did grip the steering wheel pretty hard. But thankfully, this narrow 2-lane road actually ended at Highway 6. Which is a very big, very comfortable 4 to 6 lane road. And now on Highway 6, all I have to do is keep going straight. And that led me to one very important conclusion, I guess, about RVs. The reality here is that an RV of that size, 37 foot, that's pretty much meant to go in a straight line. And I drove a straight line all the way to the storage unit where I pull in and my wife is there. Kara opens the gate for me. I drive into the gated storage area and discover that I can't turn left because there's just no way for the RV to fit. So I actually have to drive straight again and take a much wider turn in order to get to where we're going. Now I didn't make any attempt to back this thing into that spot. I pulled straight in, like a good scared driver. And once I was there, I did the auto leveling. The RV is now nice and level, it has jacks holding it up. I shut everything down. I put that switch back on so that it shuts off the power to everything, so I'm not burning up my batteries or anything like that. And now the RV is parked safely in a secure storage area, waiting for us to take our first trip. Now, come October, we're actually going to be parking this thing in an RV park somewhere close by. We haven't decided where yet. We've got time to look. So it won't be in storage forever, just for a few months. Actually, over the next few months, we'll say maybe 6 months, we're actually going to be taking several trips in it. So it won't be in storage all that often, I'm hoping, because I have to back out of that spot now. Backing up is a very scary thing for me right now. Now, I really can't wait until we're in this thing full time, because that's when the real adventure begins. But this taught me some very big lessons about the RV. I mean, I was already a little afraid of the whole thing. Not afraid, but just nervous about it. Now, I was straight up afraid while I was driving this thing. I'm just going to be honest with you. But that's okay. I mean, things like this are going to be scary. It's the first time I've done it. I'm going to learn a few things about it. And I did learn a few things about it. Now, we have a big trip coming up. First, we're going to go to Galveston, and that's going to be like a weekend trip. At the end of May, we actually have a week or 2 weeks where we're going to Colorado, and we're going to spend all that time on the road, getting there and getting back, and also driving around a little while we're in the state. And that scares me again. I mean, there's some things I don't know yet, and I don't know how this thing handles on mountain roads. I have a lot of learning to do when it comes to that stuff, and I'm looking up resources. And if you know anything, please share it with me. But it is all okay. It's good to be scared every now and then, because that's when you really learn something, not just about what you're doing, but about yourself in those situations. And I mean, I handled everything pretty well. I was afraid. I did not enjoy the experience all that much until it actually smoothed out and I was driving in straight lines. But now I know to double check so that I'm not in bike route mode. So there's a few dumb things I did, and there's going to be a few dumb things I do later. And as long as no one gets hurt or killed, I'm A-okay with that. In fact, I don't want the RV itself being damaged either, but I'd rather that happen than someone get hurt. And I don't think it's going to come to that. I mean, millions of people drive RVs every year. People figure it out. If I can't figure this out, then what did I get myself into? We're going to be just fine. But I am looking forward to when I get a lot more comfortable with it, because it is kind of stressful to sort of white knuckle your way everywhere you're going. I'm pretty sure that once we're on the open road, you know, there's going to be a nice rhythm to this. We'll get used to it. Kara and I will even be able to swap off every now and then, and that's going to be good. But it is a large vehicle and it's difficult to handle. It's not like driving my truck or a small car. There's a lot to it. There's a lot of weight, you know, barreling along at highway speeds. So whatever, I've learned a lot from it. I thought you'd enjoy that story. I'd love to hear your comments and feedback about it. I'm pretty sure this will make it into a book at some point, but who knows. Speaking of books, my new book, The Coelho Medallion, is now available for pre-order on Amazon. You'll be able to find a link to that in the notes below. But if you go search Amazon for Coelho Medallion, that's C-O-E-L-H-O Medallion, you probably just saw it right on screen. If you go search for that on Amazon, you'll find it. It's the only book by that title there. Coelho Medallion is my first full-on thriller. I've written thrillers in the past that were sort of sci-fi, maybe even fantasy hybrid thrillers, but this is my first full-on thriller in the vein of like a Dan Brown book or James Rollins or something along those lines. It's a lot of adventure, it's a lot of thrills. It was a lot of fun to write. It's already gotten some high praise from some people I really respect, so I think you're going to like it. If you want to get it on pre-order, click below and do that. I would really appreciate that. While we're at it, you should get on my mailing list, and you can do that and get 3 free books. So hop on to kevintumlinson.com/starterlibrary, get 3 of my best books for free, and see if you like my work. And if you do, pick up Coelho Medallion and other books from me. You can go find my author page on Amazon as well. So I hope you enjoyed that. I hope you enjoyed this video. Please let me know in the comments below. Be sure to subscribe if you haven't already, so you'll get updates whenever I post a new video. And thank you so much for tuning in and for all your support. Everyone here has been really amazing. I'm very happy with how this has gone, and I'm happy with the encouragement you guys give. So keep that up. I really appreciate it. Take care of yourselves out there. Hope you do well. You stay safe on the roads, no matter what you're driving or riding in. God bless, and I'll see you next time.